Now, should we talk alcohol? Come on, it's Christmas and this is me. Petrol head turned farmer Jeremy Clarkson has banned all Labour MPs from his pub. The Star banned the Prime Minister immediately upon opening his pub in the Cotswolds last year, but that ban has now been expanded to all Labour MPs. Explaining his decision, Clarkson said, "Our annual business rates have gone up astronomically from something like £28,000 to well over £50,000. It is an absolute disgrace." Joining me now is the founder and the owner of the remarkable pubs, Robert Thomas. Robert, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me. Robert, what do you make of what Jeremy Clarkson's had to say?
Completely disingenuous. He's not mentioned that we've been getting what's called hospitality leisure relief, 75% off the rates in 23-24 and 24-25. And since last year, 40% relief. So, of course, compared with what we were paying in 2019, of course rates are going to go up, but not that much. In my case, I'd like to say to you clearly that since COVID, my firm, 17 pubs, have received in grants and relief almost £1 million. So presumably he's been getting the same kind of thing at a lower scale in his pub. So the chap is, let's just say, disingenuous in this case.
Robert, I think it's great that you and your pubs are doing so very well, but we hear pretty much on a weekly basis on this show so many pub landlords saying that they can't afford to keep going. They are going to go out of business. So firstly, the national insurance hike on employers, then the living wage going up, business rates in many areas as well. They're saying they're really struggling, and we do know that pubs are closing at a remarkable rate.
Very interesting thing you should say here. The 1989 beer orders started all this. Majority of pubs, unlike mine, are owned by pubcos. These are people that borrowed huge amounts of money from the banks, billions, in fact, in the case of Stonegate, which is the moment the largest in the country. And of course, they have to pay interest on these loans, which they hand on to their poor tenants, who pay more for their beer and more for their rent. So this is what you're reading about. These guys can't make any money. They have to hand their keys back with these huge increases.
So what do you say to I mean, obviously not everyone is in that situation, but what do you say, what is the reason pubs are going bankrupt literally on a daily basis?
Because they're paying too much rent. It's not the rates which are killing pubs off. It's the rent that they have to pay to the pubcos. That's the problem. Not rates, nor increases in salary, nor any of these absurd political things which people are bringing up. Nothing to do with that. It's to do with the amount of rent they have to pay. That's all. When you have a rent review in a pub, it doesn't go up by 50p a year. It goes up by thousands. That's where the rot is, not in rates or minimum wage or any of these things. For all of those kinds of expenses, one has to put up the price of beer by 5 or 10p or whatever is required to pay those extra expenses.
And Robert, maybe the companies that are running these pubcos are having to put up the rent to make money to keep up with their costs.
What cost? You mean the money they borrowed from the banks? Yeah, well, it's absurd. It's absurd.
But there is a cost of living crisis, and we are sort of like semi-officially in a recession now.
That's right. Anyway, regarding Jeremy, does he have an ambition to become the Norman Balin of Burford? You might remember Norman. He was the chap in charge of the coach and horses in Soho, and was made famous by Bernard. You remember his books and his article in the The Spectator, Low Life. Do you remember him?
I don't, unfortunately.
Jeremy wants to become the Barry of all the Labour MPs. It's absurd.
Robert, unfortunately, we're genuinely running out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
There you go. Bad business to bar anybody, let alone MPs. The only people you want to bar are racists.
Thankfully, I've not been barred. Robert, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Reform UK has become Britain's largest party after overtaking Labour, and that's according to the Times newspaper today. New leaked figures show the Labour Party has fallen below 250,000 paid-up members, suggesting it has lost one every 7 minutes since winning office in July last year. This means Reform UK, which has over 269,000 paid-up members, according to its own live counter, is now the largest party. OK, so let's delve down into these figures, and a bit of shoplifting as well, I think we'll do, because it's Benedict Spence and he can talk about all things brilliantly. Of course he can. Benedict, I mean, on the surface, these figures do what they say on the tin. I mean, Labour aren't very popular, Reform are getting increasingly popular. Is there more going on here?
It's difficult to say, ultimately. I think that you've got to pay attention to the fact that, Farage is framing this as it's the death of two-party politics, and of course we all know that, the Reform surpassed the Tories last year, around this time last year, in fact, and I think the Tories are on the sort of the 120-odd thousand, is that what it was? That's what it was last time, anyway. Labour are on about 250,000, although, of course, always question marks over that. And now Reform are saying they are on around 269,000. So I think, as with everything when it comes to Reform, can you necessarily say that it is a definitive moment, or is it still simply the party of protest that finally now has a name on the ballot? I think we don't know that, ultimately, until we've had a little bit more exposure to Reform in power, ultimately, both at local levels and possibly higher level as well. For the time being, and I know lots of Reform voters will be watching this programme right now, and they'll be saying, no, this is absolutely the death of two-party politics, but I don't even think that is true. Let's say, hypothetically, that Reform are here to stay. I don't see them and the Tories surviving. It'll be one or the other long term, and it'll be a left-wing party long term. So I still think that two-party politics is going to be the direction. We might have this little sort of period in which there's a bit of upheaval, in which case a couple of parties are slogging it out. But long term, I still think that's what our system actually tends towards. Reform right now are in the ascendancy. They've got the momentum. They're starting to get the money. They're getting lots of, let's be clear, lots of former Tories, defectors, and
Yes.
Some might say rats fleeing the sinking ship. Not necessarily the best people, always, that you might want to be MPs. And of course, no guarantee that any of them will actually have anything to do fundamentally with Reform. But still, it's that direction of travel. I think it has slowed a little bit in the last couple of months, and that's because I think Reform have hit a natural ceiling, and now they have to slightly rethink where it is that they go on here. On top of that, Camille Badenoch is starting to a slightly better job as Tory leader, having been pretty hopeless at the start.
We saw her personal ratings go up after the budget speech.
Absolutely. So it's, I don't think you can say definitively anything yet. Certainly it's very impressive. But is it simply because enough people are disaffected with the two major parties and they themselves don't necessarily know what long-term reform are going to be? We have to wait and see, ultimately.
It's quite an incredible fall from grace for the Labour Party, though, isn't it? When Sir Keir Starmer became leader in 2020, it had more than 500,000 paying members, you said, and was the largest political party in Europe.
Yeah.
Quite astonishing.
But I think that is a reflection, as much as anything, of... the real poor performance of the Labour Party since it came into power. I think that it's absolutely, having promised, at the very least, grown-up approach to politics, I think it has really shattered any illusions that it had a plan, and I think a lot of people feel very let down by that. I think that there's also a slight hangover from the Corbyn years, where I think, you had those sort of internal struggles within the party. What is it that the party actually stands for? I think you'll find that a lot of probably Reform members, new Reform members, will have voted Labour in the past. Some might have even been Labour. There is this idea that it's all just sort of disaffected Tories. I don't think that's true at all. And also differing directions now that we're going in. Lots of people are leaving Labour, saying they're not going to vote Labour, and saying that they might, in fact, vote Green. Or in certain parts of the country, they might vote for independence. And those are different trends as well that the party has to contend with.
Yeah, it's interesting that Zach Walensky, the leader of the Green Party, is also saying that this is the death of two-party politics. So you've got, on one hand, Nigel Farage agreeing with Zach Walensky, and politically, those two are about as far away as you can get.
I think what we could see, conceivably, at the time of the next general election, is no party with overall control. And there could then be an attempt at coalition building. And that could go either way. And I think a lot of Reform voters should actually prepare themselves mentally for that being the case, that Labour somehow might end up back in government, propped up by the Greens and the Lib Dems, or maybe the Scottish Nationals, in some form of coalition, effectively just to keep out Reform. I don't know if Reform and the Tories would ever do any kind of deal. I think that there's just too much animosity there. But I think that we could end up at a situation where, in a few years' time, that is the case. But long term, I think that coalition, that left-wing coalition, I think would end up eating itself, and one party would have to win out. And again, on the right, I don't see how there's the space, really, for both to coexist.
Just the word coalition sends shivers down my spine.
Doesn't it just?
To be honest with you, and I'm probably not alone on that one. Bit of shoplifting we need to talk about as well.
I am the expert on this, aren't I?
Well,
yes. Look at me.
You've got your presence already, I noticed.
I jingle as I walk. It's
Smart Rowley, Metropolitan Police Commissioner, is saying that retailers need to do more to help the police catch shoplifters.
Yeah.
Now, is he being a bit cheeky? Should the police be doing more to kind of do their job? Or do retailers have questions to answer?
It's tricky because, as we all know, the police very often just don't respond to acts of criminality, especially when it comes to theft. If something is...
crooks, you mean?
Yeah, under a certain amount of money, value goods stolen, they don't actually respond. There are also limits on what it is that security guards can actually do without risking, potentially, being prosecuted or sued themselves. So I think that it is a bit of a tricky situation. It's a bit rich for the Metropolitan Police to come out and say, well, these are the people who are to blame. It's possibly the shops themselves and the stores. Although we are hearing, of course, the news today, of course, the allegations about, security guards in certain shops, working with, coordinating with gangs.
Yeah,
because
I was quite surprised by that.
Well, I'm not surprised by that at all, simply because I don't think actually for a lot of stores, take your average Tesco security guard, what are they going to be earning? Not very much. There's probably ways to supplement that, and in that capacity, they're not actually being asked to do very much. Everybody in London...
It was Tesco's, by the way.
No, but that's just an example. But we've all seen it in London, at the very least, incidents of people shoplifting and security guards just standing there because actually there's no incentive for them to do anything. One thing I have noticed, though, in London is that there's a very different attitude depending on the calibre of store. So if it's a more sort of a high-end store, say it's a luxury store or something like that...
Your usual habitat, obviously.
Of course. You're far more likely to see security intervening quite aggressively, and it's possibly because they feel that they're more likely to be backed by the store. Maybe the store has better lawyers, maybe it has a more stringent policy. That's far more likely to be the case. Equally, they might also be better paid than, say, your average sort of store, where, again, as I say, often it is simply that security guards are a passive presence. So I do think, obviously, there is, if you like, two-tier security guards in lots of shops, but at the same time, we all know the police don't turn up for things if it's under a certain value, and I think shops might be a lot more inclined to help the police if they thought they might ever turn up.
Well, yeah, there is that. It's frightening figures. A record 529,994 thefts reported to the police up to June last year. That's a rise 13% year on year.
Yeah, it's big business. And these are just the ones that are being reported because, of course, an awful lot of them just aren't reported because they know there's no point in reporting these things. And when there aren't really any consequences, and even when crooks are being apprehended, are they going to prison for any kind of length of time? Well, no, partly because the government announced on day one, we don't have any space and we've got to to let people out.
Yes, that wasn't a good move, was it?
Wasn't great, was it?
Benedict, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I could tell you exactly what Benedict had done to get here today, but he would probably kill me, and understandably so. Political commentator Benedict Spence, thank you. Hasn't had much sleep, basically, but it's Christmas. We'll let him off, shall we?